All right, joining us now is Ian Northon, special counsel for the Amistad Project, an election integrity watchdog, part of the Thomas More Society, a conservative law firm. The firm has filed a new federal lawsuit demanding that state legislatures be allowed to certify electors, not governors, before the election is certified by Congress on January 5th. So, Ian, thanks for being with us. You're a lawyer. Give me your best closing arguments as to why you should win that case.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. But the reason why we should win the case is because the Constitution doesn't have a COVID exception to it. The Constitution says that the state legislatures are the ones who decide. So they can't delegate that task to a governor or a secretary of state, especially when we've got accusations from other states like Texas saying that Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania didn't follow their own statutes. Now, the laws are meant to be followed. And so if you can't have election officials trusted to follow the laws as they're written instead of as they wish they were written, then you can't trust them or the votes that they're certifying. So I think it's incumbent upon the state legislatures. We heard from one of the electors earlier that they need to send a second slate of electors to make sure that there's accuracy and integrity in the election. And we just don't have that in Michigan. And as you said, in Wisconsin and other places, we don't have it there either.
Right.
So to me, it's a simple task. It's like trusting the keys of your car to your teenager. You know, you give them the keys, they drive too fast, they get a ticket, they crash the car. What do? The legislature's job is to take back those keys and make sure it's done right so it doesn't happen again.
All right, you make a good argument. Let me play devil's advocate. The counter argument would be take a look at Article 2. It's somewhat vague and ambiguous. It says that state legislatures set the rules, the manner is the language, in which electors are appointed in each state. And those states, in setting the rules, have simply followed the Electoral Count Act. It's a 19th century law that directs governors to certify the results and the slate of electors that represents the will of the people. Yes, that same act says that in the event of a failed election, state lawmakers then step in and appoint electors. So your hurdle there is to prove it's a failed election?
Well, no, I don't think the burden is on the state legislatures, just the opposite. The burden would be on whoever's job it was to do, in this case, secretaries of state or executive branch agencies. It's their job to prove that they did a good job. And here they can't do that. For example, in Michigan, the legislature issued subpoenas. And instead of responding to those subpoenas with evidence, the Secretary of State sent out a destruction memo. Instead of responding to the request to come in and testify under oath, she's refusing to testify. So to me, that tells you everything you need to know. The burden is not on the legislatures. They delegated this task. The burden is on them to make sure that they hold these election officials accountable. And when those election officials refuse to answer questions under oath or refuse to provide evidence, or in some cases have even ordered the destruction of evidence, that tells me everything I need to know. That is a bad election. And then under the Electoral Count Act, or more importantly, under the Constitution, it's their job to fix it. The group closest to the people, not the U.S. Congress, but the state legislatures. Those are the ones closest to the people. And there was some wisdom in the way that was set up. And that's been our tradition for the entire time that our country's been in place, is that the state legislatures, the buck stops with them, and they've got a hard task, but no less important for them to do the work when the election officials are either skirting around the rules or avoiding them intentionally altogether.
All right. Last question. I've only got a few seconds left, but I read your report, the Amistad report, the investigation. Mark Zuckerberg, the head of Facebook, donated $500 million, as I understand it, in what can only be described as dark money to inflate voter turnout in key Democratic swing states. That strikes me as potentially illegal, is it?
Well, it's never happened before, and if I were to do that as a private citizen, it would be a felony. It would be unlawful. But for a charity to do it, it's unprecedented. But there's no charity exception to those rules. And the fact that it was put in so many places, targeted, and those are the spots where we see these irregularities, that's not a coincidence. And so you don't have to believe in conspiracy theories. The money's well documented. What's not well documented is where it went. You know, if the government officials spend the money through HAVA, the Help America's Vote Act, or through the CARES Act, there are receipts, there's transparency. You can FOIA those requests, Freedom of Information Act. But when it's a charity, you can't do that. So that's why people are dark money because it's concealed, it's hidden
right.
from view.
Well, you know, the guy who's worth billions and billions of dollars is spending it in a way that tells us where his desires lie. Ian Northon,
Right.
thank you very much.